Okay, we're continuing with the book here, The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. We're on the letter H. We're doing first Robert Maynard Hutchins. He ran University of Chicago. He along with Mortimer Adler, they co-developed this idea of the great books of Western civilization. And like I said, the best class I ever took at Stanford was my freshman year, Western Civ. The whole year we just read all these great books from the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Aeneid, Boethius, Consolations of Philosophy, all the famous books. Okay, I think it's a good thing. Now, don't get me wrong, there's other ways to look at it, but I think it was a great way to have people stay in touch with the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans, and Western civilization. And the Bible, we had to read the Bible too, and that's good. Everybody should read the Bible. You don't have to read it cover to cover, but you should know the basic stuff. So anyways, I think he did good things at University of Chicago. University of Chicago used to be a very respected university. It was real good. Robert Pirsig, the guy who wrote Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, came out of there. Morton Freeman came out of there. A lot of smart people. Okay, here's a quote by Robert Hutchins. The object of education is to prepare the young to educate themselves throughout their lives. Freedom of inquiry, freedom of discussion, freedom of learning. Without these, a true university cannot exist. And then he says, nobody can read Freud without realizing that he was the scientific equivalent of another nuisance, George Bernard Shaw. Yeah, Freud was a clown. He was a jerk. He was not a real scientific guy. All this idea that, a boy wants to sleep with his mother. Give me a freaking break, you jerk. He's just trying to label people with derogatory terms. If a woman was frigid, a wife, he'd give her an electrical shock. So, he was funny in a way. That's for real. Okay, you read about him. You'll be amazed what you'll find when you read about him. And George Bernard Shaw wasn't a BS artist, socialist, I'm not even going to get into him. Okay, Robert Hutchins. To solve a problem, it is necessary to think. It is necessary to think to even decide which facts to collect. Okay, next we'll do Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley lived from 1894 to 1963. He's most famous for having written the book Brave New World in 1932, which is a masterpiece. It mentions the 5 castes of people like alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. And nowadays, those are common terms in the dating literature, the dating coaches, the alpha male versus the beta male, beta bucks, alpha, what. Anyways, that was a great book, Brave New World. I actually read that in high school. That was good. Back in my day, things weren't so bad as they are nowadays. We still read some good books in high school. And if you had to look at it, George Orwell's 1984 and Brave New World are like the textbook that the communists have used to destroy the minds of the young people in the public schools and just turn them into, hedonism leads to weakness. Okay, so they use the Brave New World in an overt way, and then they use Orwellian stuff in a covert way. So here's some of the things he said in Brave New World, that the lower castes are conditioned to hate books and nature and to pursue just hedonism. Books are bad because they promote ideas and individualism, which is not wanted in a collective society, independent thinkers. Of course not. Nature's bad because it leads to contemplation, okay? Solitary time was forbidden. No real science is allowed. Yeah, nowadays we don't have that much real science. Most of what you see in the journals and stuff, it's all fake, funded by corporations. Religions are forbidden. No families. Children were raised in a hatchery. Okay, and they're trying to make that happen nowadays too. But they won't be able to do that. Hedonism causes feeble-minded conformity. Hedonistic consumers are easy to control. Let's see. That's the thing, though, that I've noticed is that the communists are smart and they stick together and they stick to their plan. They stick to their party line. So they're incredibly powerful and efficient. Whereas, the non-communists, the people who want freedom, they tend to be lazy and stupid and independent. Most of them are illiterate. When I say illiterate, I mean functional illiterate. They could read their name, but they don't read it all. Or they just read, Twitter or something. They don't have any intellectual sophistication to do anything meaningful. That's why they're so weak. Christians all over the world, they're the biggest religion in the whole world, like 2.3 billion, but they're totally weak. They're being what word comes next? It's cited all over the world because they don't help each other. They're all independent, and that's why they're so weak. And they often are jealous of each other. It makes them very weak. Like I said too, another ethnic group, somebody writes a book, they get lots of reviews. I write these great books, and I get almost no reviews, and then I get shadow banned on Amazon, shadow banned on YouTube. That's another reason why Christians are so weak, because big money perverts don't want the truth getting out to the public. Okay, Next thing, what else did Brave New World say? Aldous Huxley. The traditions of monogamy and family were abolished in the Brave New World society. Consumerism was considered the ideal. The director of one of these areas in the Brave New World had an illegitimate child with a girlfriend at an Indian reservation. He thought they were dead. Rufus Fear says he pushed her off a cliff because of the pregnancy, but she and the child survived. His name was John. He was raised on the reservation. He read Shakespeare, so he spoke with Shakespearean English. Well, anyways, he was sort of a brief celebrity. The bottom line with the book is that hedonism is used to weaken people. Okay, that's the big thing to get out of Brave New World. We'll do a couple of Aldous Huxley quotes here. Facts do not cease to be facts because they are ignored. But it's very easy for big money to flood the internet with fake stuff and overwhelm a fact. Okay, science makes no cognizance of things that make life worth living for the simple reason that beauty and love and so on are not measurable quantities, and science deals mostly only with things that can be measured. There's only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that is your own self. Technological progress has merely provided us with more efficient means of going backwards. Every man who knows how to read has it in his power to magnify himself, to multiply the ways in which he exists, to make his life full, significant, and interesting. Specialized meaninglessness has come to be regarded in certain circles as a kind of hallmark of true science. Yeah, what I would say about that is you can get funding if you want to pursue a micro question which supports what big money wants you to support. But if you try to do anything significant or something that contradicts what big money wants, forget it. It will not get funded. It'll get paywall blocked if it gets published at all. It'll get peer review blocked. Reviewers, quite often, they're just a bunch of phonies, okay? I've had great ideas. Like I said, my ideas of ischemic spine, for example, and I couldn't get that published in the journals. So, I just wrote books. That's why I started writing books, because you can't break in that easy to the journals. They don't want new ideas. They don't want to help the pros. Pros are a bunch of poor people. Nobody gives a rat's ass about them. Okay, Aldous Huxley. The creative life of a man is impossible without a considerable measure of individual freedom. And you need time. You need time to read, study, to write. Okay, continuing with Aldous Huxley quotes. Reality cannot be ignored except at a price, and the longer the ignorance is persisted, and the higher the price will be. The propagandist's purpose is to make one set of people forget that certain other sets of people are human. Yeah, what they always want to do if they want to set people against each other is they dehumanize the other person. Like, let's say they want to, General Douglas MacArthur had said, war is caused by undefended wealth. So if one country wants to go and steal stuff from another country, they always say, oh, that country's a bunch of homicidal maniacs. We have to go in first before they get us. And that's also how they turn people. Like, right, what's the big propaganda of the last 30 years from the Communist Party, also known as the Democratic Party, has been to say that white Christian men are bad. Because they want to get all the idiots to go against them, and they want to demonize them and victimize them. Because once they can get rid of the white Christian male, it's over. It's over. Worldwide slavery. That's it. Okay? He's the only significant obstacle to communism and return of slavery. All the other ethnic groups, they think they're too small, or they're too easily corrupted, or they're atheist and they're weak, or they're stupid. That's how they think. I know how they think. I know people who are in that ilk, and I know exactly how they think, and I've read a ton about them. Okay, but the regular public is so stupid that it doesn't understand anything, and that's why, like I said, you go to the grocery store, you see 95% of the toothpaste contains fluoride. Okay, rat poison. That's how stupid the public is. They think rat poison is good for them, okay? And they can't understand why they're so sick. Okay, a couple more quotes by Aldous Huxley. So long as men worship the Caesars and the Napoleons, then Caesars and Napoleons will arise and make them miserable, okay? Like people think, oh, Steve Jobs is great, such a great hero. He made an animal tracker for you dummies, okay? He's not such a great hero, okay? They don't understand BS from truth, okay? Why the heck is everybody... I won't even go any more into that kind of stuff. Okay, parodies and caricatures are the most penetrating criticisms. Several excuses are always less convincing than one. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. The chief lesson of history is that men do not learn from history. Okay, let's see. The most shocking fact about war is that the victims are just human beings who are trained to do terrible things and to be murdered in quarrels that are not their own. Yeah, great. Modern technology has led to the concentration of economic and political power and to the development of a society controlled ruthlessly in totalitarian societies by big business and big goober. Okay, as political and economic freedom diminish, sexual freedom tends to increase, as if to compensate. Okay? In conjunction with the freedom to daydream under the influence of dope and the movies and the radio, it will help reconcile the dictator subjects to the servitude which is their fate. The finest works of art are precious, among other reasons, because they make it possible for us to know, if only imperfectly and for a little while, what it actually feels like to think subtly and to feel nobly. Yeah, that's why totalitarian societies want to get rid of good art. The perfect dictatorship would have the appearance of a democracy, a prison without walls, where the prisoner would not dream of escape, a system of slavery where through consumerism and entertainment, prisoners would love their servitude. Gee, does that sound like the modern world? Anyways, that was Aldous Huxley. Hope you found that helpful.